Oh,
Yep.
all right. We're here. It's 7:01. Let's call a meeting to order, September 11th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Bruce Moore,
Here.
Dan Cheek,
Here.
Jeff Goings,
Here.
Betsy Straw,
Here.
and Don Sattler,
Here.
Stuart Simon,
Here.
Austin Davies,
Here.
Owen Costanza,
Here.
David Howe.
Yep. Here. All right, let's stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, that would be appropriate to give a moment of silence for September 11th.
I think we can probably do that as soon as we get through the first.
Okay.
First part. Do we have a motion to approve phone participation by Betsy?
Move to approve phone participation of Betsy Shaw.
Second.
Motion my own, seconded by Bruce, was that? Or was that?
Yeah.
Okay. And a roll call vote in favor?
Austin Davies.
Yeah.
Owen Costanza,
Yes.
Jeff Goings,
Yes.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Betsy Straw.
Yes.
The phone participation by Betsy Straw is approved. Moving on, do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Move to approve the agenda Wednesday, September 11th.
Second.
Motion Nolan, sent by Dan, was that?
First, should we make an amendment? We'll make an amendment that we're gonna.
Yes, I'm
Make
going
an amendment?
yes, I'm going
Bruce makes a motion then.
like to make a motion that we at least get a minute of silence for September 11th.
Second.
All right.
Heroes.
Roll call vote to approve a moment of silence for 9/11.
Jeff Goings,
Yes.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Betsy Straw,
Yes.
Austin Davies,
Yep.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
and Owen Costanza.
Yes.
We shall add that to the first. Let's see, for the, we'll move that right before approval of minutes, how's that?
Sure. Good idea, Bruce.
Thanks, sir.
And do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended? Or is there there was a question brought up by the attorney about items 3 and 4 being the same. Do we want to merge those as one?
I think they should actually be reversed.
Or reverse?
We move to reverse items 3 and 4.
Second.
All right. Motion by Owen and second by Jeff, I believe that was. Those in favor of reversing new business items 3 and 4 on the agenda,
Voice vote is fine.
voice vote.
Give someone a phone number.
Does it matter?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Forgive me. That's the, if that's your rule, then that's the rule.
You know, unfortunately, I would say that people that.
All right. All right, then roll call vote.
Owen Costanza,
Yes.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Austin Davies,
Yeah.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Betsy Straw,
Yeah.
Jeff Goings.
Yes. Excuse me, yes.
All right. Items 3 and 4 under new business are reversed. Now do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended?
Showing them. We
Um,
don't need a motion.
I suppose we had an open motion.
At some point, I'll make some suggestions, but
Oh,
for the moment, yes, we need a motion to approve the entire agenda with the amendments that have been made.
Okay, motion by Austin,
second.
second by Owen. Roll call vote to approve as amended.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Betsy Straw,
Yeah.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Jeff Goings,
Yes.
Austin Davies,
Yeah.
Owen Costanza.
Yes.
All right, the agenda is amended, stands now in approval. And we will move on to our first
Moment of silence.
moment of silence. We will, in remembrance of the victims of 9/11 attack on the United States, we will have a minute of silence. Thank you, everyone, for your minute of silence and remembrance of what happened 23 years ago, I believe that was. Moving on to item number 1, we got a motion to approve public hearing minutes from August 14th, 2024.
Move to approve public hearing minutes from August 14th, 2024.
Second,
Motion by Owen, and a second by Bruce. Would be
Bruce.
Bruce. Any motions, any discussion on that?
Mr. President,
Yes, Austin.
I would move to amend those minutes on page 4 of our agenda packet. Under adjournment, for the minutes, but the motion was made by Costanza to adjourn, seconded by trustee Richardson, who is not a trustee. So I would move to amend that. I believe it was Bruce Moore who seconded that motion.
Bruce wasn't here.
Watch the video, I think it was, but regardless, I know it wasn't trustee Richardson, so we could get that corrected. That's part of my motion. And then also, there's no signature or initials on these minutes, so I would ask you to take a signature or initial by whomever drafted them in the clerk's office.
Public meeting.
And that's the motion.
Is it appropriate for the signature of the draft minutes to sign them?
It isn't done in most communities. In most communities, again, and I think I discussed this at the other meeting I attended, the clerk drafts the minutes and they're presented to the board. And the actual action by the board in approving the minutes is the effective item. So I think that probably, at least is not normally done.
Okay. From what I noticed, the minutes are always initialed or signed until recently, so that's not, I will amend or change my motion to simply amend page 4 of the minutes under adjournment to reflect whomever seconded the motion to adjourn.
I was here that day.
Certainly was not trustee Richardson, I believe.
Yeah, so it's only first.
She said it was here. It was close.
Did you say you were here or weren't here?
Well, it's because it was the 21st.
It was.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'll share now.
all right, so.
Second.
So we got a second.
For Bruce Moore.
You correct that. And roll call vote to approve the amendment to the minutes.
Actually, why don't you just do the minutes as amended? I think would be it.
Okay. All right. So since this is a minor one, I suppose we don't need to bring it back. We can just approve as amended and amended.
I'm fine with that.
All right, then.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Carolyn's not here tonight? Obviously. Right,
No, I'm sorry,
she's not here.
Stuart is here tonight.
The reason being,
She has asked me to attend your meetings.
Okay, this is the first time I know of this. Is there a reason why?
Well, I have a lot of experience with municipalities that sometimes have disputes, and I think that she felt that I perhaps could be of assistance to you.
Okay.
Sounds fair.
Good question. Yes, so we usually have the same order, the same, it's,
And if they're not,
if they're not, just like us, if we're not.
usually let them know.
Yeah, we've had attorneys rotate in and out for as long as I've been here. so-
Right, and usually if, like, when Roxanne and, Cynthia wasn't here, if Roxanne couldn't make it, she would send us an email and tell us that Aaron would be here to fill her place or another one from her. This is news to me and probably news to everyone that Carrie Lynn's now no longer gonna attend these meetings. So do we start corresponding with you, sir?
Yes, that would be what I would recommend. Perhaps you could send a copy to Carrie Lynn, but I think that I can handle this community, and I think in a really good way.
Could you please, before you leave tonight, leave us business cards for contact information and email?
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jeff Stewart is the most senior municipal lawyer
Even better.
in our realm in the state, I found out.
Mr. President,
Yes, Austin.
move to call the question.
I kind of got lost.
Amended minutes, we amended,
We-
trustee Richardson.
Minutes as amended.
Trustee Moore.
Oh, yeah, roll call vote on action item number 1.
Amended.
And amended, remove Christie Richardson and add Bruce Moore.
Betsy Strong,
Yes.
Jeff Going,
Yes.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Dan Chief,
Yes.
Owen Costanza,
Yes.
Austin Davies.
Yes.
All right, yeah. The amended minutes, removing Christie Richardson and Bruce Moore. Moving on to item number 2, do we have a motion to approve Board of Trustees meeting minutes from August 14th, 2024?
So moved.
Motion by Owen,
Second.
second by Dan. Any discussion on this one?
Mr. President,
Yes, Austin.
on page 6 of those minutes, page 6 of our packet, number 2 at the top of that page, motion to approve minutes from June 19th, 2024. The minutes state the trustee Straw requested changes to the minutes. I don't recall whether that was just a request or an actual amendment, but I also requested a change to the minutes, and the clerk requested that trustee Straw or I draft minutes for her and send those to her. So see minutes amended to reflect what occurred.
Done.
Yes, Owen.
I don't recall, I just recall the changes you wanted to be sent, not that you needed to draft it in.
I remember lots of discussion about
Yeah.
being told if people want it a particular way, they need to write it for her. So
So that's,
I remember-
how they want to see it,
I
as
remember
long as the board approves it.
Betsy was requested to submit something and Austin was requested to submit
So
something.
they submitted,
Yeah,
see where they submitted from you as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if we could have the minutes reflect that.
second.
Was there a second for the motion to edit them to reflect? We have a second by Betsy. All right,
So what exactly are we changing?
so,
I mean, are we using Austin's words? Austin said, no, Carrie has to draft minutes. I don't believe that to be correct. I don't remember word for word, but I don't believe that to be correct.
I think you can make it very simple that the clerk requested the changes from Austin and Betsy in writing that they wish to see.
I would agree
That
with
would
that.
be one
That was not.
I would,
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I would change my motion. To reflect this.
So that's a one sentence change just to add accuracy to it. Okay. All right. Roll call vote to edit the minutes to reflect that the clerk requested to change the minutes to be presented by Betsy and Austin. Roll call in favor of the change?
Austin Davies,
Yes.
Owen Costanzo,
Yes.
Jeff Going,
Yes.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Betsy Straw.
yes,
The edit is approved as described. Moving on to item number 4, which has been moved to item number 3. Actually, I'm skipping public comment. Did we have any public comment here? I see a blue sheet right there. Is that fine? Okay. All right, then moving on to new business item number 4. Do we get a motion to discuss and possible action on preliminary forensics audit report? So, motion by Owen,
Second.
second by Dan. And let's see, this was our discussion. Jim, would you like to come and give us a short synopsis of what we've been investigating and discussing? Is it on? There's a switch on the bottom.
Yep.
All right,
Good evening, thank you for having us. And, I'm James Evanstone, and my associate here is James Gordon, who is with Forensics. We had a couple of discussions and we were requested to do a forensic audit of the invoices and credit cards for 2022 and 2023.
excuse me, can you repeat that again?
Yes, we were requested to do a preliminary forensic audit of the invoices and credit cards for 2022 and 2023.
Invoices and credit cards.
Yes, it's in our engagement letter. I'm gonna fix the title because it only says MasterCard, but the engagement letter says both.
So invoices means everything that's been brought through.
That's what we think.
To the whole village,
Yes, that's where we,
all accounts receivable.
yes, and we did some, as you saw, we did some sampling on those. And the purpose of the preliminary audit was to determine what we saw, and then for the village to decide if they wanted to do any more work or were satisfied with what we had done. And I want to express my appreciation to a number of people, including the village attorney and the village treasurer. She was very, very helpful. We spent 2 or 3 days with her, and we had some long, candid conversations. And I think you'll find what we found there very helpful, and it's within the report, and also the village president and some of the other folks. And this is a long report, and I think the easiest way to do this is just go through the executive summary, and then you can ask questions, and if you want to, then we can refer to the detail. But I think we just go through the executive summary, and then we've also added some recommendations, and we can discuss that. And then if you have questions on a specific area, we can go into that in more detail. Is that agreeable to everybody? Okay, so we'll start with the credit card. There's one credit card, this is our understanding from our discussions. And there are 3 distinct copies of it, and they're maintained with the village clerk.
Jim, I apologize. That's incorrect.
Okay,
There's one credit card account number
right,
and 3 cards that are named. for each
Yes,
person
that-
holding
yeah.
the card. You said in your type here, it says there's one credit card in the clerk's name and there's copies of it.
3 copies of the single MasterCard.
It's not 3 copies of it, there's 3 different cards, same account number, but they have different usernames.
There's not different usernames.
Yes, each card has its own name on it.
That's not what we were told.
That's what I was told.
Okay, so who are the 3 users? Who are the 3
Karina
names?
Boyd, Gary Miller, and David Howell. It doesn't say that on it?
The credit
You
card,
gave it back, but on what did you say?
I don't believe it had individual names on it.
It just said Pop Road. Oh, I was told it had individual names.
it was in Carrie Annenberg's name.
I don't know
There
that.
was one card, one account issued in Carrie Annenberg's name according to the credit card company when I
When
talked
I
to
had the
them.
credit card, it had my name.
That's correct, and you guys eliminated the sub and control back then. There used to be sub and control several years back where there was multiple card numbers with multiple usernames that was issued, and that was eliminated back in 2018. And after the village administrator was eliminated,
That was-
and there was a single credit card that was issued in one person's name that was shared by everybody.
Carrie, I think can you send me?
This is
Okay,
Katie.
Carrie, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was looking at Katie.
Yeah, you're good.
Then I think what would be helpful is just to send us
Copies.
the copies of the 3 credit cards, and we'll just include that in the report. Well, I think that would solve that pretty fast.
So, to be clear, there's 3 cards. It's just got Poplar Grove Village on it. Yep, same number.
It had the same number, I understood it had the village clerk's name on it.
Yes. When you
We're
look
not
at
gonna be
the
on
invoice,
it, but
It's
it
got
got a card.
Carrie's name.
Right,
No,
David thinks no.
It just said Village of Poplar Grove.
okay,
what I might have.
Do you have a copy with you?
I don't, I haven't.
You don't see it.
So what happened when the banks changed? The credit bank, the Poplar Grove Bank changed credit card companies, and they no longer listed some accounts. It wasn't anything that we did.
What,
Poplar Grove changed that.
these there was new cards that were issued in January, or, no, actually, I think it was February. There was a new card issued with a new number.
Right, that's because Poplar Grove Bank changed the
what-
company they used, and they no longer did so.
No, that was changed because I started my audit, and there was lots of
Oh,
arguments.
it's the number changed because you created a data breach. Yeah,
No,
I'm sorry.
no, the number changed because you guys were emailing the number back and forth, and it was shared with the state's attorney and the sheriff's office. The state's attorney and the sheriff's office got those numbers.
Created the data breach,
You are creating false narratives.
Mr. Attorney,
Emails
The
with
card numbers were sent to the sheriff and to the state's attorney's office,
and to your former lawyer, which created the data.
and to my personal attorney because of false accusations by you and the village attorney, Roxanne.
I make a motion that we stay on point.
You are not asked to speak right now. You are not asked to speak.
we have a presentation, we have these.
You have not been asked to speak. Yes, Pete.
It's easier if I go grab the cards.
Those cards were issued in February. Do you have the old ones?
They are here in Village Hall.
Do you have the old ones?
Yes, they are locked in our safe.
Do you have the old ones?
I can go look.
Grab the old ones that were prior to February, that were mixed in January, and the new ones. I had conversations with the credit card company, numerous conversations.
September.
There were some changes on her blueprints that went back to August 1st, and we didn't get them back from her. I should have gotten back this week, Karen, Katie,
There's some changes on her blueprints.
What?
There was some changes on her blueprints. Changed
from being at the,
from the,
correct,
the actual corrections.
some code and something, so.
My mistake. Individually named.
I thought so.
My fault.
What'd you say?
Individually. Both new and old.
It's got your name?
So there's Carrie, Karina, and David, the 3 department, or the clerk of the 3 department.
Yep, that's my fault.
Was it?
We got it.
Okay.
Now, they are this, Jim, they are the same account number, because the new credit card service operator no longer did sub-accounts of the main account. And you were debating all that, changing that.
So these are the cards we're using in the county.
Yep, these are the
Okay.
current, these were the old.
Okay, can you take pictures, 2 pictures of the department machine?
And make sure you don't publish those in the report.
So
Another thing,
So they all have the same number.
Okay.
they do have all the same number, but they're not
Well,
all under carrier number's name.
Yeah, we'll block out the, on the phone.
It's like a husband and wife company. So where you have family members.
Well, I have business cards that have sub-accounts on the statements, this company just doesn't do it.
It's not a sub-account. It's Southern Control is where you would have separate invoicing and separate numbers for separate.
Change of credit card company. That's what you want.
Well, and some credit card companies do have, like American Express.
American Express.
Yeah, they have-
Health American Express, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, say my office manager had accounts, and it comes with a sub number with different part number, and it's on the same statement.
Because with American Express, you can, as an example, you can set sublimits. So
Yes.
this person has this much money, this person can spend this much.
This has to buy line $5,000.
Right.
So when we have to charge more than that, we have to make an additional.
Okay, so we'll. This is why we put out drafts, because,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a lot to go through here. Okay. Skipping to bullet number 3, we felt there was a lack of accountability. We said minimum accountability. And we go through that later in some of our discussions. We did talk to the village treasurer and the village president, and our understanding is there is not an ordinance governing the use of the card. Who can have it, who has it, we strongly recommend, as you'll see in our recommendation section, that you adopt an ordinance governing the use of the card. The cards do leave the village. They go on trips. We saw our credit card receipts from Wisconsin, obviously from Chicago, from Bloomington. And, but we understand there's no sign out law and there's no sign out process. The other thing that we noticed on the card is we were going through the receipts in the card, they don't necessarily say who incurred the expenses. Because it's showing the account number, but since the account number is the same, it's not saying this person spent this money, neither is it necessarily saying what they spent it on
On the credit card statement or on the report?
this credit card
In
statement.
the statement. Right. But
Well, on the receipts too. A lot of times, the only person who was actually putting information on the receipt was the village treasurer. So she has an approval stamp, and on her approval stamp, she's putting down what it was for. But the actual person who's incurring the expense, who gives somebody the credit card, they're not writing who it's for. That,
Treasurer's not writing who it's for either.
what's
The
that?
treasurer's not writing.
Well, the treasurer will write down a description, but for example, if there's 4 people that went to lunch together, they don't write down who those 4 people are. You don't know if they're village employees, if they're contractors, you don't know who they are. So it's a group, it's just a number. And you not necessarily know what it's for, and that goes back into our, when we get to our discussion on travel, we can look at that a little bit more.
Just real quick, do you recall what the charge was in Wisconsin that you referenced?
I saw some charges, there was I believe the gentleman who was newly hired to do the water, to do the public works, went to a lot of training in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So he took one of the cars with him. Is that you?
Sure was.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Hi. So, he took the car.
The charges were for UW.
What's that?
The charges were for UW.
Right. And our point was it didn't say what they were for on the card. And whether or not it's appropriate to use the card or to actually pay for it yourself and turn an expense report.
So create a list on a separate sheet when
there's a stamp on, with invoices, there's a stamp on there what it's for. And you see some examples in our report, we just took a couple out. But, if you were being audited by a third party, like, well, I know, but like the IRS or somebody, let's go, then they would question what that was for, because I don't think, from the information you saw, I don't think you could, defend it.
And then
David, how did you turn those in? I mean,
I pay for my classes online and turned in the receipt and the registration form for UW Madison.
So what about lunches? You said
I
lunch.
didn't buy lunch to Madison.
So it's not,
I stuck my own one.
I'm giving you, we didn't want to give you an exhaustive list, because what we're looking for are trends a little bit, and to give you a sense of what we're seeing. The other issue we brought up was sales tax. When the credit card is being used to make a purchase, there's the village making the purchase, but they're still paying sales tax. And we did discuss this with Karina, because you have a sales tax exemption, you can take a copy with you and make a purchase. You can show them that you're tax exempt, and people are not doing that. And we'll have a discussion on sales tax a little bit later, but it can be fairly significant, and you are exempt, you should use your certificate.
About 10 years ago, they were paying sales tax on fuel, and they brought that to their attention. And
These are-
yeah.
These are receipts though, John.
Right. No, I know.
Yeah, Stuart,
Right.
do municipalities walk around with that exemption letter to go to lunches and things, take the taxes off? I know we've been fighting with Microsoft with E365, but I mean, I can't imagine walking into a Boone County restaurant and saying, remove my tax. I mean, they probably wouldn't even know how to do it.
Well, you could make an effort. The answer is it would be exempt. Show them an exemption certificate, they hopefully would not charge you tax.
And when you think of the, but it all adds up. If you look at the hotel bills, there's a lot of tax in those hotel bills.
And nobody, did Karina catch that? Curiosity?
I don't think anybody has addressed it, to be honest with you. And I don't think it occurred to anybody that when the credit card goes someplace, the tax exempt goes with it. Now, I will say that the charges from Home Depot, every one of them was correct.
Marathon,
It's one lump sum price for the fuel, but it looked like it was correct, and actually, I thought Marathon invoices were pretty good. They say what was bought, the date of the purchase, and the individual
and the
makes.
truck number, the employee.
Yeah, so I thought that was the best, of all the accounts we had, that was the one that.
America, we used to have. They were self-certain, so that's.
I have a question. I have a question for you. Did you find a procedure for these credit cards? Can anybody just walk and say, I need the credit card? And
We didn't find any procedures.
no procedure at all?
No, it was one of our recommendations that
There's
you
only
great.
3 people that can use it.
And the purchase policy apply.
What do you mean, what should you use?
Only 3 people can use it.
Anybody can use it.
No.
If they got it in their possession, they can use it. I'll tell you better make questions, this your will. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, 3 people use it. Katie does purchasing, she gets Karina's card and for like materials or here in Village. She does.
Well, my point is,
Yeah, I get it.
I'm getting to a point here. Well, my point is, if there's a procedure for this, then that means the people that use the card would know the procedure of the tax.
You need a
Right.
procedure.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
You
And also
do,
That's
the
the sign off.
accountability.
Hey, you take your tax exempt with you, there's one attached to it on the back.
Right.
You have your tax exempt on the back.
That's what our
Well,
Home
we give you
Depot,
responsibility of the,
our Home Depot cards
People's
have
money.
a tax exemption on the back.
Right.
one of the big key takeaways from tonight is the ordinances and the procedures.
That's the key takeaway tonight.
I think that's, yeah, there's like 2 or 3 of them, but. Thank you. That was it, Al, wasn't it? Thanks.
how's the water?
That's somebody's lunch.
It was a good one.
I need a water holder.
No, I'm okay. Okay, going to travel. Any more questions on the credit card by itself?
Go ahead. Oh,
You're all right. You know what I'm saying?
but this is your time to ask, so if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them.
I have a lot of questions on, it just seems like we spend a lot of money on food.
And I mean, we're gonna talk about that. Okay, so the MasterCard is direct paying much of the travel. And it's used in person. When I say in person, that means the person takes it with them. They go to the restaurant, to the gas station, to the hotel, they give them the card. And it's also used remotely, which means it stays here and somebody calls up and they give them the number either over the internet or over the phone.
But Karina would pre-book hotel rooms for these guys.
Yes, yes. And we said the current processes don't conform to the state statutes or the ordinances, and we'll talk about that. So, as you saw in the report, there is a state statute covering travel for village employees and trustees. And then there was an ordinance for travel created by the village, which was taken off of the state statute. And basically, the ordinance that you have to travel in some areas is more specific than is necessitated by the state statute. For example, you have meal allowances, so much for breakfast, so much for lunch, so much for dinner. And I'll stay on the meal allowances for a second. The meal allowances you have are probably way woefully inadequate for the cost of actually going someplace and having a meal. So I think is it $20 for dinner?
So they're very low.
They're very, very low. And,
$8 for breakfast, like 12.
Yeah,
lunch,
so-
Did we just
20
change
for
these? We just.
No, we can talk about
The employee handbook was updated. There's larger meal allowances in the employee handbook.
Well, the employee, so the way that the current village ordinance reads, it says trustees. The statute requires it to say trustees and employees. So that's one of the fixes. If you add the word employees with trustees, I think you're covered. But then you have a village handbook, the rules in the handbook, the ordinance. In some areas, the handbook actually covers things that the ordinance doesn't. For example, it discusses what you're gonna be paying if you take your own vehicle, what the mileage rate is and things like that. And in the handbook, it says that your meal allowance is a daily limit, it's $55 a day. Which there again, depending upon where you're going, it's, could be too low. It might work here, probably not gonna work in Chicago.
So let me ask you this, the board approved the handbook,
Yes,
so those prices would be approved as well, if that was the limit of that trustee or employee, correct?
yes, but it gets confusing because it's, and the attorney can talk to this maybe a little bit clearer, but the statute is talking about an ordinance coming off of the statute, and the one you have only talks about trustees. And I think to be clear, it needs to talk about trustees and employees, and then you would adopt a handbook off of the ordinance for travel. And that way you're consistent.
I don't know if you're getting to it, but there also is prior approval required.
We'll get into that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Can we write the ordinance to point to the employee handbook and put employee, and talk about trustees as well in there? So we update one item and the ordinance points to that?
That's what it was, yeah. That's what it said, that's exactly.
It-
Okay.
Well, adopt the ordinance because we're not employees, we can't go out the handbook.
But we have to add them into the.
if I may speak for our conversations, the attorney and Jim and I and Karina, we've already had a discussion about Jim perhaps being the one, since he's done the homework, to help rewrite the ordinances. That's another discussion.
So Karina and I also, when we were here speaking with Karina, this is before she became ill. She talked about reaching out to other municipalities where she knows folks and obtaining copies of their ordinances. So you would have some modeling to go by. I reached out to a friend I know at NIU, and because they're also a public entity, much larger than you guys are. So their procedures are somewhat more complicated, but they're a good start. And I was able to get procurement procedures from them and travel procedures, and I have forwarded those to the lawyers, the attorneys, as a starting point. And theirs are interesting, I can send them to all of you, but it's like they have people who travel all over the world. And so their needs are much more complex, but they're all coming, I believe they're coming off the same statute that you guys are coming off of as a starting point. They have diagrams and all sorts of things.
Right, it's a nice gesture, they have shipments and help write the ordinance, but we're gonna be paying 2 people to write an ordinance where we have Ansel, I think, one of the largest municipal firms. I'm pretty sure they could handle creating a firm or procedures for us and their ordinance.
And say that without CPAs writing ordinances,
Right,
what do I know?
I'm just recommending suggesting my thought.
One of the other processes that we talked about is, we already discussed the fact that the invoices come in, the credit card receipts as an example. And Karina puts them behind your credit card statements. That's how she supports her statement. So when you use a credit card, then you give her, in most cases, people are giving her the receipt, and she checks it off, says, okay, I can account for that receipt, and she puts a little stamp on there. On the direct pays for hotels, then she would have a copy of the hotel bill. There are some things that she doesn't get receipts for, so that, not too many, but a few. So then she goes online to the credit card company, and she pulls out their description, which is not very descriptive, but, you know, if you want to dispute a charge or something, it's a little box. And then she has the monthly ongoing subscriptions, like Microsoft and Adobe and some others, and then there's some annual fees that you guys pay. So that's accounting, and then she submits that to the trustees, and they approve the bill and it gets paid. But the way we're reading the ordinance and the statute, that's not accounting for the actual expenses that the traveler or the individual incur. Because the way they're written, you have the pre-approval, and then you have the accounting. Did this person stay within the boundaries that you set for them? Well, that part never actually occurs. So they're accounting to say, did this person meet the boundaries or not? So for example, the way it's working now, the charges that were direct paid go to the credit card. The charges that were paid by the traveler go on an expense report. And then they're paid by a check. Now, the expense report you're currently using doesn't have any space to actually have anybody approve it. The only person who signs the expense report is the traveler, and it goes to the treasurer, and she cuts a check. But when you
So
step back,
there's nobody that approves your,
Karina double checks it.
well,
Is
you're,
that
you're,
a current practice that we're doing expense reports? Because I don't know, last year the expense reports were filled out, we went to, I know, I asked about that.
so the way, and then the other thing is that all your travel is specifically covered by FOIA. So people can come in and say, show me that you followed all these rules. And the way we look at it, that you're putting the treasurer in a real difficult situation. She can't demonstrate that it was done. And if somebody came in, she is right now on a lot of these issues, she's relying on her memory. That we came in, asked the people, I know that this happened and I know this person was here, but she may not be around someday, and then you can't answer those questions. And what you really need is documentation. So when the person has concluded the trip, then they fill out an expense report. And this is what happens in most companies too. So the expense report's filled out, the items that were paid, they list everything, the things they paid out of their pocket, and the things that were paid through the company credit card. And then at the end, they've accounted for all the expenses. And you look at, if you were approved for this particular trip and you were authorized so much money, they look at it and say, yes, you're good to go, or no, you fell short. You now are in a situation where you exceeded your limits. And then the trustees are required to make a roll call vote and say, yes, we're gonna pass that, or no, we want our money back.
But we don't even see it.
You're not seeing it. Right, it's not occurring.
And the other thing is, because I fill out many expense reports.
Yes.
And if I didn't fill it out, and it went to Karina, she would give back to me, saying, it comes out of your pocket. Because otherwise it goes on, she's being questioned for something that I did. I'm saying that's not right.
But Bruce, these credit card statements, she doesn't pay any one of them without a receipt that corresponds, so you can confirm that. Not anything on that statement doesn't get paid without a receipt, and that is available to any trustee or anybody.
I'm not talking about. You got your receipt, but you really don't know what it's going to
There's a
next.
stamp on it, and she puts what it's for, so I don't know what you're talking
She's
about.
covered for the credit card statement.
Yeah.
But the traveler has never accounted for the actual travel. So for example,
Reimbursements?
well, so let's take an example. Even if you feel the number is low, you said, okay, they're allowed $20 for dinner. The way we're reading the statute and the ordinance is, if they go more than $20, they have to come to you to have approval. But that never occurs because it was direct charge on the MasterCard, and that never gets dealt with. You author,
I just want to stop you there. How can they get our approval if they're down in Springfield?
it's at post-approval.
At post-approval.
This is at the end. So when you're taking a trip, you have to have approval to take the trip, and when you're done, you account for it. If you work in a large company, that's basically how it works. If you work for probably NIU, that's how it works, there's a process. So you approve, you say, yes, you can go to this trip, and here you can spend no more than X number of dollars. But at the end, you want to see, did that person actually spend the amount of money that you approved, and did they stay within the other limits? You don't approve alcohol. Okay, so did that person, in some cases, going through the, let's go through the Hilton invoices, for example. We saw different rates. On one of them, we saw 2 valet charges for the same room. There are 2 people staying in the room, we don't know who those people are. And they're both charging valet for the same trip on the same day. So every day I see 2 valet charges. I don't know what they're for.
Is that leaving and coming and going?
No, it means there's two vehicles.
Two different.
2 vehicles, right. So,
Is this receipt on page 33?
yeah, well, I don't know the page, but yes. So,
But you need to look at the end of that one, and then I'll give you this one, and you can see that.
oh, no, this is not yours. No, I put this in here because
What?
you didn't charge for it.
I didn't ask for any money back.
And I put that in
You
there,
mentioned Valley and Lima.
that's not, no, that one's not the one I'm talking
Why is it in?
about. Because, for one thing, it was in the whole group of documents we were given, and for another thing, it demonstrates that you paid for the upgrade
I
yourself.
never asked for anything back.
And other people did not, other people charged the village for it. Right, and giving you kudos.
I didn't turn in any receipts.
So which one are you talking about? Which,
Well, I'll go to it.
well, yeah, it's,
It's in here, let me find it. It's in, and these are strictly examples.
and what, are we allowed valet parking? I don't go down here now, I can't, no.
It's very difficult to self-park at that hotel. I
Yeah,
mean, you can do it, but I mean, if you're dragging bags for 4 days, and the price difference between self-park and Valley Park is not huge, but I put it on my Hilton Honor, and I get credit back.
we're allowed to bring a spouse or a girlfriend or fiance.
Well, I would
We
agree,
intend those.
but I mean, if you got 2 village officials, and I assume it's probably Eric and Terry, they probably came at 2 different times,
Right.
so they had to take 2 different cars.
Right,
I mean, but they're sharing a room,
right,
so.
you're saving money.
And we're not criticizing the expense, we're just saying it's not, nobody's explaining what they're doing. if you get FOIA'd on that, how are you going to explain what it's for?
It's a husband and wife, and they took 2 cars because they attended different times.
I understand that.
It needs to be an itemized.
It needs to be itemized.
Next person is trapped.
Right.
I think it's Carrie's.
We are.
Instead of putting it on Karina to figure out.
Put the fault on the individual.
You don't want to be putting our, and that would come out when you turn in the expense report. When we get through here, I'll show it to you. I know it's, I believe it's, yeah, and,
Well, let me stop right here, no, you just brought a point up. So everything that's on here, that's in your report, this is not all stuff that was billed to the village?
what I gave you at the end is the 3 or 4 years of charges that were billed to the village, 127,000.
Okay, but all these itemized stuff here. that you
I
gave
gave
us-
it to you by vendor, right?
Right,
But the examples I have in here are just a couple fractions of that. Just some examples from 22 and 23.
Did you find any alcohol billing or anything?
No, I did see alcohol charges and I saw they were not billed to the village, just like we talked about. And I saw some people decide, they had a valet parking rate for the conference. Some people chose the valet park and some people chose to, self-park, and there's no, you don't have a procedure. Or
Well,
ordinance.
you use choice of either one.
Right, but you don't have a rule on how they can do that.
Right.
Um,
Well, it depends on the hotel too.
already said hotel. So again, that's everything on here billed to the village.
Yeah,
Everything that's itemized here is billed to the village.
Yes.
All the stuff.
this came, we took in all the credit card bills that we received and we scanned them in, and then we digitized them and we sorted them. So you'd have a picture of what this was by vendor. Now, we don't necessarily know who charged these expenses, we just know what they were for.
Do you have questions on?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was important here first. Here.
Oh,
And,
That's only for, I didn't know.
another issue that comes up that we don't believe is addressed is the practice of doing staff meals. We believe you need to,
we changed it, yeah, well, we discussed this, how long ago?
We need to policy.
Yeah, we haven't put a policy in place. but
no, because we did discuss it with Karina.
We put a stop to it. We recommend, I think it was quarterly now, maybe once quarterly, 2 times a year.
There's been no proposals and nobody approved.
So when they do,
One thought was that they would ask for, just like we were talking about when you travel, that they would fill out a request. And then we could, vote on that request or something like that. Same thing, it should all be under request, even for when we have events. That's what we talked about.
Right.
Anything was finalized, because she's not doing it yet.
Yeah, because, well, they're not gonna have staff functions anymore because they don't wanna be called crooks and criminals, things like that.
Stuart, I saw a great response too. I saw a great response to you on a municipal chain. Somebody asked if it was okay to use tax dollars to buy employees lunch, and you said anything short of capping.
the way they were working is they would go, with some of the receipts we saw, they would call a week in advance and they would order food. And then sometimes they would go down to a local restaurant and be part of it. And then another employee apparently was traveling to Patillo's and picking up cakes and things like that.
Now that, was there an explanation for that? Because,
It says staff lunch, I believe.
okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if she looked at, like, when we have our budget meeting, we had Portillo's.
She did have some that way. And I think what would clear a lot of this up again is if you turn in an expense report, then,
You know exactly
then you're
what it
documenting
is.
what it's for, and it's over. But right now, it's really unclear. What you're relying on is looking at the credit card bill. That's the only place it's accounted for. And you're relying on the treasurer, who, in some cases, she's buying the food, and then she's having to account for it and approve it. And you're really putting a lot of responsibility of one person.
Yeah, you're not talking about the purchases, you're just talking about the documentation of
Well,
it.
this is all,
Yeah, just
we're not
clarification.
addressing, yeah. Most of what's in here
We're-
is
we're-
documentation.
Village of Don is not law enforcement official, village patrol, so I mean, these little ordinances were not enforced. Like all of them, somebody should be in here going, please.
But it sounds like we don't even have a good procedure.
We definitely need to improve our procedures, and we
Absolutely.
discuss this, and this is the steps that we need to do.
Right.
Just want to prove everything.
Yes.
It was here, it was available, anybody didn't ask a question.
We didn't, there was pursuant to the ordinance.
Well, there was no written request, there was no residential approval, there was no
Or
board.
not, or not.
I think ultimately we're going to need the village attorney and or Mr. Edmondson to draft some ordinance policies that are missed.
If Mr. Edmondson can show us marriage and admissions policy legal, I would not be in favor of ordinances.
That should be with our attorneys.
This is a presentation, that's for.
And the last one under this section, we talked about the stipends. The village president was receiving a stipend in lieu of going through the process of turning in expense reports in for meals, and I did bring that up to the village attorney. And then was not the last meeting, but I understand you've changed that policy going forward.
For the next election, but now let me ask you this. Mr. Saller receives a $500 stipend every month.
That's what we're
He
talking
doesn't
about.
use it, he doesn't turn nothing in. Should he be entitled to that?
Well, that's your decision.
Well, Mr. Attorney. So if we say,
We revisited it, we removed it, so.
we removed it for the next election, but we have, what, 8 months ago, 7 months ago,
Well,
whatever?
just like this, there was no expense reports, there's no way to trace it.
My understanding is that that is being treated like salary and we're withholding taxes. It's really,
But if we wanted to, we could stop it. We're bored.
that's,
Team players.
I will note that I brought the proposal forward to change the salaries, and the stipend was removed according to state law, and will go into effect.
Yes, and Mr. Costanza lowered it even more than what you.
Mr. Costanza did not eliminate the stipend. Mr. Costanza collected the stipend, and then he also billed above and beyond the stipend.
Okay, let's
There's
stop. Let's go
records
back
of
to
that. You want to start a big sidebar? Let's stop it.
when we were here a couple of weeks ago, we were speaking to the village treasurer, and she mentioned that there's also certain individuals receiving stipends, I think it's $40 a month for cell phones.
Our employees for public works so that they're.
Yeah. So I don't believe there's a policy for that. The other question I had to the village attorney, because I don't know the answer,
It's in the
Because-
handbook.
So union
It's a-
It's in the union contract.
Bargaining.
is that, but I'm curious, and I asked the question to Carrie, the fact that the stipends are being paid, does that make those cell phones employable?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Anything.
All of the answer is, would be fine.
Anything.
So that
Andrew
means
asked
that
my staff,
they're-
aware of that.
So would that mean that they're personal and if they're using their personal phone?
The same.
They're using their personal, it applies to us as well.
We use our personal phone, we use our personal email.
That's in the collective bargaining
It's all subject to.
That we
My
pay,
staff is well aware of that.
yeah, and they know it.
Okay. We just wanted to point it out, so.
Nope. Or, yeah.
Any more questions on the travel?
I think it.
I do, but we're not gonna get into detail, just giving us the.
Oh.
That's the overview summary.
20,000 foot at this point. The village credit card, the village procurement policy. So you have 3 levels of procurement. You have $2,500 for the minor procurement, which we looked at the Home Depot credit card as an example, and pretty much that's small items. Then you have, and those, almost all the MasterCard charges fell within that $2,500 limit also.
So what all can you spend on that? $2,500.
Well, it's unclear.
And
And,
it's like, that seems like everything's unclear.
well, it needs definition. So your procedures talk about it, But they also say, if you're gonna go out and do something and spend $2,500, the procedures encourage, I guess is a good way to say it. It encourages you to go up, pick the phone up and say, hey, what's your price for a crescent wrench? And then you would document that. And then you would go say, well, Home Depot's got the best price. Then you go with Home Depot. What we have on this process is what we have in the meals. Somebody went to Home Depot and they bought a crescent wrench. And it goes in and you get billed for it, you pay it. But there's no documentation, go back to documentation, about whether that was the best price or that you needed it right this minute and you just ran and got it because you're in the middle of something.
So under $2,500, if we took the department head and the employee and sat down and did all that, we'd lose $2,500.
Well, I mean, but
It's
I'm
for the
just,
use of the village, it's not, I mean, you can't get down to, is it toilet paper, you're taking it home, or is it here?
that's your current policy.
Yeah, and that's been the policy.
Just do 3 bids on a crescent wrench?
It's, it says that it encourages you to go out and look. If you look at the detail,
He's a shopper. I give him credit. I think all of our employees, she shops when she shops for toilet paper and things for here, pens, pencils. She looks at the best price. She says, Jeff, can I get this? They're on sale right now. Send me an email. I can show you the email. Is it okay if I purchase because I'm gonna buy a couple extra because we're gonna save money? She's a shopper. He's a shopper.
it's a documentation
Yeah.
issue.
I understand.
And
So
if
you
you,
look at government paying $90,000 for back.
if you don't want to, if you want to set up categories about what you're going to require documentation for and what you're not, that's your privilege. But right now you have this and I'm just telling you the receipts are basically, I
Right.
bought something from Home Depot.
The key thing is that we need purchasing orders and try to get pre-approval if we can. If they have the time to go out and it's a $2,500 item, shop around, which I know they'll do.
Well, my background is construction, and we built power plants and refineries, and we adopted a procurement card because we were spending millions of dollars a week, and you look at the cost of the paperwork versus the cost of people going out and abusing the system, and you come to a happy meeting, and you set a number, and a process, and you decide who can do it. So are you willing to give a superintendent the credit card and run the Ace Hardware and spend $5,000? Probably, because the requisition and the purchase orders and all that are very, very expensive. We're not gonna get.
Just like through my work, to do one, by the time it goes through and gets back, it costs about $225 for each purchasing order requisition.
But when you write your credit card policy, you're gonna put in there what it can be used for, who can use it, and what the documentation is to go with it. And then the next level is from 2,500, and I believe you had 20,000, but the state limit's gone up to 25,000. And you're encouraged, according to the statute and according to your own ordinance, to go out and get 3 bids. And one of the examples we put.
Can I speak on that one real
Sure,
quick?
go ahead.
I talked to the former director, there actually is documentation on that. I'm working with PC Tech to be able to get access to his emails, but for that particular zero turn, he did pay quotes for a John Deere zero turn, a Kubota zero turn, and a Skag, which, I mean, this is standard practice for us.
Sure.
All similar models from Buck Brothers in Harvard, which is now AHW, Johnson Tractor, and Cherry Valley Landscape. I just don't have access to his old emails at this moment, so we are working on getting access to provide those 3 quotes.
And then what I think you should do is in the file, just say, this is what we're doing. We had the documentation, the person left is lost. Because right now in the file, there's no documentation. So it looks like you didn't go.
How
Zero
much are we gonna spend?
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
Well, but if you just, but
I
right
mean,
now.
if that's what's necessary to prove I'm doing things the right way.
no one's charged you with anything. No one's being charged here, David. I don't think.
You say we-
the
it
time
proves that I'm doing something the right way.
Or the village's tax dollars anymore on this. I don't think so.
I think what he was saying was put some kind of documentation with that. For future.
It's like $200 an hour.
he's trying to recover
Trying to
Rich's
recover Rich's
email.
email.
Oh, I get
To
that.
show that there was
I think
3
he's
quotes.
just saying, write some kind of
Write a note,
documentation
and
to
I
go with
think
that. So
write a
in the
note.
future, somebody will know.
Yeah, because Katrina told me the same thing, that there was not, because when we looked at the file had nothing. It had just the invoices. If there is documentation, but you can't get it, then say, there is documentation, we don't have access.
Yeah, because we don't need to
That's what
give
it
it
is.
to the email.
It's simple.
Yeah.
Those
No, I get
the
it
right way,
You're trying to show them, exactly.
which is to hear and be told we're not doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But
Well, we only pulled one sample, but in that sample we pulled, we looked at
Just
three
happened to
big
be one that wasn't
purchases.
right.
And that's one of the purchases we looked at, and we didn't know when we pulled it, where it was.
Well,
gonna
just
come
like our
from.
plow truck.
For the what?
I don't think we need.
We actually waived
Get off
the
on
bidding
tangents.
process.
We waived,
The board voted to waive that bidding process.
Super majority.
We did not go out for bid, we waived the bidding process. I
Anything
come to the
that
board,
large, it would come before us regardless, give us the option to waive it anyways.
Sure. The other two large purchases we looked at, one was the emergency repair. And you came in within the limits there. I think it just needed a little bit of documentation. The only documentation of who approved it was on the actual invoice from the vendor, and it needed something from Papa Grove saying, I get the whole idea of the emergency repair. It needed a little documentation. The third one, which is the one we were talking about when I came in, which was on the testing contract. And my understanding from speaking with the village attorney tonight, that it met the criteria for the state, but it didn't meet the vote criteria for the village.
And that's what they're engineers.
Right. There is,
we were renewing the contract.
I understand that. The way I look at it, in my experience, I would have bid it. You may have done a better price and still stayed with the same vendor.
There's only 2-3 companies out there. You got rid of them.
And the statutes allow it, and the question is, we'll review whether you have a stricter standard than is in the state law. But the legislature some years ago gave a different methodology with regards to engineers. For the reason, if you've had a previous experience with the engineers, so we'll look into that.
Sure. The last section, we had
Donations or gifts?
the donation.
Donation.
Yeah. And we had a long talk with Katrina about that, and Karina.
Karina.
I keep hitting the T, I'm sorry. And I understand the process and the purpose of doing it. And I had several conversations with the village attorney, and they believe you need to do it differently than you're currently doing it.
Unfortunately, they probably won't do it anymore.
I do think we need to take money at the EX6 software, have a line, item like Betsy suggested. Yep. And I've struggled with that for a long time. QuickBooks had it, and we had Sigage. This doesn't have it. We have to script it in to have a donation line. And that's why she throws it in the fund. I mean, we just need to pay for it to do it.
Well, I'll very briefly, the idea of vendors contributing money to a municipality to use for a public purpose such as giving food to poor people is perfectly legal. The question is whether, in fact, the companies understand that they're not giving money to an individual, but they're basically making a donation to the municipality.
Always been very clear with
And that's what I think. So I think this is a situation where you may have a question about whether requiring vendors to sort of give back money to the community is something that you want to do. But I think that there are a lot of vendors who, in fact, when there are public issues in a municipality, that they will, in fact, make donations, which they will, in fact, deduct as governmental as donations. So the key to it is simply to make sure that the paperwork indicates that in fact it's a donation given to the government, the check should go to the government, or a receipt should be given, and if you do that, then there's no problem.
Absolutely. Comcast Care Days, they come and give back all the time. Jim,
There's an ethics issue potentially with that.
I don't see how.
But.
Okay.
Ethics issue with
Comcast Care Days, is that the?
firms.
She was saying that a lot of the villages, they,
Donate.
they were not profit.
That's one way of doing it, but in a small community like this, depending upon the amount of money, if it's, but there is an ethical problem in terms of whether in fact, people are being sort of forced to, give back money. But leaving that aside for the moment, if in fact, it is a voluntary action, then I think simply giving the money to the community rather than having the expense of setting up a not-for-profit is a perfectly good way to do it.
And on page 94, you reference that violate the Article 8 of the Illinois
That's what,
Constitution. Do you have any-
and then she sent me that.
Well, I think that what she's talking about is in fact gifts. And it's the question of whether these are gifts given to individual employees or public officials. There's a gift ban act, the
Right.
relationship, but I think that if it's absolutely clear that this money is being utilized, I agree with what Carrie had said, but if this money is being utilized for a public event, or as I understand it, to give food to poor people, then the idea is it's not a violation of law. It's just two things. One, needs to be made clear that this is a gift to the municipality. And second, there's an ethical problem about whether the community is forcing individuals to give this gift. But if it comes to the government, as opposed to individuals, then there's no constitutional problem.
Depends for Thanksgiving dinners.
Injury.
I think you need to help them draft the procedure.
Except that it gets even more convoluted when you are in a small community, because it seems, it has the ethical implication that it's an expectation. And so then since you have such a small knit group of people, it's an expectation that if you're going to continue to do business in the village, you are required to then donate money.
That's an issue that needs to be thought about.
And that's where getting an opinion from the state ethics board or something like that.
Have we had any of our vendors that donate for this?
That have been shaken down.
Have been, yeah.
I mean,
Well, I got a quick question on this. Then how does it fall, because like we do a donation tree for a tree lighting, and that's cash, people just put money in a box. That's no ethic issues there, I don't believe it. That's just a box full of money, how do you document that? Going as a donation, it's for the same purpose, feeding, but
As
it's
long
not a vendor.
as it's clear that that money doesn't get somehow put into the pocket of some private person.
Does it?
And again, I mean, we, no, we can't evaluate every single thing that people do in their lives and set up evolving procedures for
It
it.
can't be a rule on how to go to the back.
I mean, the answer is if you have a box out there and people put money in the box, and it's clear that the money, nobody ever makes a question about whether the money is all used for that purpose, that's fine. Now, a person that puts in $100 theoretically would like to maybe say, well, I would like a receipt so I could take it off as a deduction on my income tax. But if you're putting in $20, I don't think we need to develop enormous procedures to
It's
deal
just
with
a
the.
holiday giving kind of deal.
Yes.
Yeah, we're expected to be human beings.
Yeah.
I was in Napoleon, Iowa a few months back, and they had their street dance, similar to our size. Banners everywhere. I mean, the store donated money, the insurance agency donated money, the accountants, I mean, it had banners.
But like I said, I think you just say documentation.
And it's a, yes, and it was, the way it was explained to us, that people were actually going to the vendors and soliciting money. And that
Who
was
explained that to you? Who explained that to you?
the treasurer.
Treasurer's.
Letters went out.
That was our understanding, and that's why this is in draft form, so we can talk about it.
Letter went out that said, doing a giving tree, would you like to participate?
Well, that's,
Do you have a copy of the letter?
It went out in the water bill.
yeah, I don't have the letter.
Okay.
This was a conversation.
So did it say, pay your water or else donate, we're not gonna give you water? No, I mean, really?
No, and our focus was,
It's the village acting like a 501c charity.
We are by tax definition one, am I wrong, Stuart?
No, you're not a 501c3 charity, but you clearly are an entity that can receive contributions and use them for public purposes.
And so let me ask you this, Mr. Stewart, if it goes out in our water bill, asking the community if they want to donate, is that illegal?
No.
Okay. What's your definition of it, Mr. President?
I spoke, Jeff. Are you trying to antagonize and fight again?
Let's just,
I'm just asking.
So it's in the draft, nothing for clarification.
Clarification.
Yeah,
Let's move on. You've instigated enough fights, Jeff. You're staring at me, you're instigating a fight again. We're not going there.
to say,
Let's move on.
Always tell them, I'm not staring at you.
You're doing it again. You're doing it again.
Oh, my.
You know, we gotta do an interview tonight too.
No, we're not doing an interview. It's something
Yeah.
else.
we basically covered most of the recommendations. The one I wanted to touch on was having a policy for the rental cars, people who rent vehicles. And we saw the rental vehicles in the MasterCard charges. And I would suggest that you have a policy. Who can rent it, what kind of vehicle they can rent, should they buy the insurances, are you guys covering the insurances? Can they take their family members in it, just basically, when, and sometimes renting a vehicle is probably a better alternative than having 5 people taking their personal cars. So, I just think we saw it, we didn't see any guidance whatsoever. Most companies will have a process.
Should that come from us or should come from the legal end?
Yeah.
Legal.
Legal, you got shit right there, right?
They're auditors.
You got that shit.
Our attorney.
Our attorney, see,
And
so
so,
they were blaming it.
It happens very few times in the car.
yeah, how many times did you see? That's a
Yeah.
good question.
There was one in our sample, but in the list in the back, I think there's like 5 rental vehicles.
In a 1-year period or 2?
And that's over the course of 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Or, well, once a year.
Right.
So when there wasn't one of our trucks,
Okay.
trucks available, like, we're gonna park this screen up with Kerry, we didn't wanna take their car. So
Right.
So sometimes we would allow them to take the public works director's truck or
Sure.
one of our vehicles, the village's vehicles.
Sure, and you just, I think when you rent a vehicle, one of the big issues when we rent a lot of vehicles is, who, should it be on the personal credit card, should it be on the village credit card, and should they buy the insurance, and you guys covering the insurance?
We covered all that higher.
Right, but it needs- I think they could use a little, that should be in the travel policy, basically.
So when, where?
Yes,
Well, the insurance part's state law, and if you hire an own employee to do anything on behalf of your company, you have to cover. We have to cover.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
I don't know if we have to spell that out. If you're traveling or doing anything for your employer, he's now hired your own car. You're going to pick up lunch, you hire the car. You want to drop off a man, it's on the employer's car. That's just the same law.
okay, so we've gone through the recommendations and some of the findings, and I don't know, we gave you $127,000 of charges that we saw. And I don't know if you want to go through all of this detail or not, it's pretty self-explanatory. And a lot of it, you're going to go back and address it, and some of it, you're going to take our recommendations, and some of it, you're not. Yes,
Did you find any stealing, anybody stealing money? Did you find anybody making personal purchases?
no, we didn't. I mean, and we focused, because of what we found, we were focusing on the policies and procedures. So,
Which we knew.
and that's what we saw. You're not spending, I mean, for example, The charges we saw with Home Depot and everything, they were very moderate. The charges we saw buying things that $300-400, most of them are $100. We have done projects where we see people running their company through a public entity, and we didn't see that in the sample that we did.
So there's no gotcha, this person, this person.
We didn't see any of that.
But there is some large quantities on here. It's like over $1,000, I'm saying. This promo direct, whatever, that's for $1,000 and $2.
Hold on, Bruce.
That was for like our giveaways for when we did like the Boone County Fair, the pencils and stuff like that. That was always approved by the board.
We used to have a tent.
We used to have a tent spare.
And you take that back to one.
Because it was getting too expensive.
Well, no, well, work it.
Nobody wanted to work
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
This is really good community outreach, so people really like to come and talk to us outside.
So we give out
They walk in
points
here.
or-
Right.
Cool. It just seems like we spent a lot of money on food. But then again, this is over, how many years did you go over?
I think those are 19 to 23. We gave you it because we had it, so since we had it, we went ahead and gave it to you. We gave you the whole
So it's
list.
kind of deceiving,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because you look at it like, oh, we just built this company, I'm saying. Here's,
In that, I can say,
Oh.
there was purchases for our tree
what
lighting.
types of workshops?
There's purchases for our, residents.
There's purchases for lunches, there's purchases for clerk things. When
But then just brought theirs was workshops.
Yeah.
Whatever. Those, what were those?
Like the
Budget hearing.
Budget hearing, all of us.
I think those would still be beneficial.
Whatever policies would like to put this in.
Yeah,
I mean, those always
we
came
can
to the
do
board.
anything anybody wants. All we gotta do is agree to it and do it.
Bring it to the agenda.
Bring it to an agenda. Okay, I want to put a food policy in for employees. They can do it once a year, twice a year, whatever you guys want.
So Trina's got pretty much, for all this here, she has got explanations.
Yeah.
Because the company that I work for, we
Pretty
went
much
through many
explanations for
lines.
everything that you.
She had the explanations, but she's not necessarily the person making the purchase.
Right.
The person making the purchase should be the one providing the explanation.
Documentation.
Right.
So what we're gonna do,
That's my point.
Yeah.
I don't want to have her sit in front of an auditor and sweating and try to explain all this stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think we have,
But documentation, we're on stuff.
we get audited every year. I'm going through another audit right now,
Yeah.
a regular.
well, but a regular financial audit isn't necessarily going to address this.
They're not. no.
One of the suggestions we also had, we looked at it, right now when Karina, I got, I gave you.
Yeah, you do.
Right now, when she books everything, somebody takes a trip, she's booking it directly to the expense account. And what I'm thinking she should do is be booking it to like a receivable for the employee. Then when they turn their expense report in, then it's resolved, and then it goes to the expense account.
Well, they just took away all of our IML money, so I think only the clerk is enough to go.
But I mean, whatever, when you're doing, that's the way it works, for example, at Sears. But any large company would do the same thing. So you have a corporate card, you go, you do your travel. It's approved. When you come back, you're presented with your credit card bill, which is the company's credit card bill. You go in, you fill out, and they do it online, but they did when they existed. And then it's cleared out. And if you didn't file the expense report, then you wound up getting it deducted for yourself. And if they didn't do that, it was out of control. Nothing quite that draconian, but the other thing is the expense report that you have needs to be modified a little bit, and it needs to be signed off. So who signs off when somebody travels, who's gonna sign off? If you guys travel, then who's gonna be your sign off?
Betsy,
Yeah,
do you have any questions?
well, I don't know that it should be booked as a receivable, I think it should be booked as a payable, and it just isn't paid until the expense report is turned in. That's how I've seen it done in several different places that I work. It's still a payable, we still have to show it as a payable, we still owe it. It's just a matter of who's going to pay it. So the village is either gonna pay it or the employee's gonna pay it. It's still payroll, but we don't pay it. So the expense report is put in and approved. That's how
Yes, I was looking at it from the employee standpoint, it was a receivable from them. You're looking at it from paying the bill, and it's a payable to MasterCard, you have to pay it, but the money's not being charged to an account. It's being held in suspension until the person who spent the money accounted for. What percent?
Limbo, pretty much.
So that be, we would have Karina be the one who makes the approval, or does that? Well, it's Nancy. Very well, I'm just saying Karina does all the bookkeeping, so it's turning to her.
So I guess my next question, you said you've been talking with the attorneys and whatnot. Have you been working with him or Carrie?
Gary,
Carrie, all right, so she has, well, you might still be able to answer this question. So I mean, with you guys working together, is there gonna be some kind of draft ordinances on these subjects? Maybe a draft template of all the documentation he's talking about? Some templates for us to look at, a draft ordinance for us to look at, all his suggestions, like I said, if you've been working with Carrie, I'm sure she has it all. down. So, give us something to present to us to go through.
Well, do you want,
Put real life pictures to it.
do you want us to work with the attorneys, or do you just want the attorneys?
Well, no, I'm just saying, you said you have been, so I mean, I'm sure all these.
We've been discussing the issues at a higher
Oh, okay,
level.
discussion.
We haven't, what I did is I went out and I gave her the NIU examples. I could reach out and try to get some other examples for you.
I think we could do that.
Yeah.
And I think they probably
The
have,
communities that we represent, and again,
Yeah.
part of what, what we're looking at here is ordinances that are practical and simple enough for a smaller municipality, but will give you the solutions to some of the missing pieces that you have here. The fact that there's been no example of fraud or money having been improperly taken is lovely. All of these bills have been ultimately approved by this board. So nothing ever gets paid without this board. And the problem is, in no municipality does every trustee review every single little document. And so what you need is a system where there is internal control, and where something comes up on which there's a question, you can easily get the answer to it. And we work with many municipalities, and we need to prepare something for you that can be dealt with by your staff, and we will do that.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at, you guys are gonna draft something for us, even like the expense report. I mean, can you guys make a template of that?
We have,
Somebody-
do we have them? We have them, so we have to implement how we want to use them.
Okay,
That's
well,
up to us.
that'd be great, we got a good email out.
Yeah, we have.
I'd like to see it.
It'd be nice to see it.
Yeah, I've never seen one of our expense
Yeah, we
reports,
have.
so we got them, email them out to all of us, I'd like to look at
So
it.
what we need to do, like what Betsy had said in a previous email, is fill out the credit card purchases, and then that will clear all that up. We just have to set what we want to use it for.
So like, when David goes out and buys,
Press a wrench.
that's a wrench.
Yeah, as long as the
Dog,
expense reports are
there's
getting
my
filled
receipt,
out.
I make this purchase, you'll get the bill.
Karina will not reimburse anybody without a threshold, or mileage or anything else. So she just.
Well, I mean, I get that, but I mean, is it detailed enough, like you're saying, it doesn't have enough detail?
I think.
Are they detailed enough?
I think their expense reports.
Is it ours?
that's an example, that's your expense report.
Yeah, that's it.
So, here, and that being the attorney, if we can draft the
Is that not
ordinance,
clear enough? Is it-
There's no place to approve it.
and if there's
Okay.
what I
And you're
see
not,
in
you're not
that,
accounting
is
for the
the card
taxes that are
statement.
paid by.
Hold on, one.
What do you think,
So you're
for
not
this,
getting
for
a big
a
picture
statement,
of
you know, for
whatever
monthly
the
statement,
was.
So it needs
and
more.
not travel, which you have one expense report, it doesn't have to be individual expense report, and then for every travel,
And it's a
you
big.
gotta make an expense report, can we do that?
Betsy, hold on a second, we had a side conversation going on here. You guys,
I think the answer is why don't you let us prepare something for you, and then you'll take a look at it and see whether you think it's adequate to meet your needs. The one item, is that if you are going to have maximum dollar amounts that you are going to approve for meals and things of that nature, then there needs to be some clear indication if somebody is prepared to ask for more or to pay for it themselves. If they want to ask for more, then it should clearly come to the attention of your treasurer and perhaps even the mayor.
Did you hear that, Betsy?
Yeah,
All right.
So done, again.
Yes, so
So I think going forward, we should have Jeff and Karina and the attorneys correct a lot of the stuff in the draft. And I've got, Jeff touched on sort of, thank you very much. So, you made a lot of, do you guys have an attorney on staff or a retainer that helps? Because you guys make a lot of recommendations and interpretations of law here.
We do this, this is just, we have a lot of experience doing it.
Okay, I'm just not familiar with this.
And let me just suggest, I think what we would do is we would draft it, and we will clearly try to use material that we've worked on in other municipalities.
Absolutely.
Part of the reason you hired us
Do the best of it.
is because we have that experience. And what we will do is then prepare some draft documents, and we will then circulate it both to you and to your auditors for them to take a quick look at.
I have one last question, if we're done.
Yes.
So I guess I missed, and maybe some of us missed, that the engagement letter said you're going to look at invoices, which is fine. That's
Sure.
fine here. But in your letter, it said that the village president requested you accepting the practice of donations, which wasn't something that was in our scope for that board directed.
It was, the reason it came on the radar was because the expenditure, we looked, they're using the MasterCard to make the purchases.
Your cover letter said that the village president requested that we review the practice of accepting donations and vendors. So, I mean, I guess it's just
Well,
up
because-
to the board. I mean, we're gonna pay for that part of it, that's up to us. But, I mean, and it was great, we looked at it, so it was something there.
I have a question.
yes, Jeff?
So at our board meeting, when you were here last time, you were directed to only with the attorneys, communicate with the attorneys. Was there any communication with anyone other than Karina?
The communication, the written communications I have done were done with the attorney being copied, because I needed information from her. But she was copied in those emails.
My understanding was the board gave you direction to only communicate with the attorney.
You don't have that authority.
The board
The
does.
board does.
You don't have that
The
authority.
board that reaching
I
out.
am the executive branch, I'm the village president, you don't have that authority, period.
I can't imagine that a municipality would want a report like this to be written without the village president being informed as to what is being done and offering advice. It's really my experience, and unless there's some indication it's been abused, I would say that that is something every municipality and the citizens want as well.
Informed, yes. Involved, yes. Directed, no.
Who went there?
Sure. He was here on the very first day when we were supposed to come and have a meeting and discuss it. He sat here with you guys all day and you collected information.
He also gave us, help, because we're normally,
He helped?
when we normally do an engagement, we have a point person that
The treasurer should.
she did give us a lot of help on her issues.
She would give you everything you needed. This gentleman
We
is over
spent,
here.
we
doesn't
spent
have
2
office
days, I
hours.
think we spent 2 days.
All right, moving on. Moving on to item number 3, which we pushed down forward. We have
Well, I
also,
have another question. You're ready to move on to pay these people. Do you feel, we were told from you that if you felt there was flags, that we need to go further, do you feel that you are completed here with our village, or do you feel that you need to get deeper for it?
I think you should move forward and not backwards.
What was that? The summary said that they didn't see.
I believe that at this point, the big issue is the procedures, the documentation, and I think this should be forward-looking. Do you agree? Absolutely. Yes,
I want to hear from you.
yeah, no, I,
I appreciate it.
no, we appreciate all the help.
all right.
I didn't.
We have a motion to discuss and approve the release of Green Forensics Accounting Solutions accounts payable check in the amount of $14,835.25.
So, second.
Motion by Owen and a second by Austin.
You have a question on this.
Yes.
So in the report, it says you were retained on the June 19th, correct? In our bill, we have a bill for June 15th and 18th. To a total of $700.
I don't do the bills, they're done by, well, I think we're going to spend more money than we're spending more money than we're gonna charge you.
Well, I just, not because it was before, like I said, it said, in this, it said you were retained 19th. I know the first time you here was the 24th, so, and the 15th was a Saturday too. I just caught my eye that there was a bill for the 15th and the 18th prior to being retained.
I'd have to go see what we did in those days.
Okay. So this total is what we owe you?
I think our agreement was 25,000 total, is that correct?
Up to.
Well, we spent more than that.
Well, this is just up to the beginning.
Oh,
There's
there's more bills, there's more bills.
There's one more bill.
One more bill, and it's gonna be 25,000 exactly.
Yes, because we spent more money than that.
So it's on a little,
Up to, didn't say they had to max it out.
But you gave me permission for? Well, we voted no. So I voted no.
All right.
So it's not 14,000 just for the public that's watching. It's the full 25,000.
it's just a.
Plus, however much attorneys go along with that.
Yes,
All
but
right. Moving on. Roll call vote, please.
there you go.
Austin Davies,
Yes.
Owen Costanza,
Yeah.
Jeff Going,
That's,
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Bruce Moore,
Yep.
Betsy Straw,
Check for $14,835.25
Thank you.
is released for payment to Green Forensics Accounting Solutions. Moving on to item number 5, we got a motion to discuss and approve quote from Monroe Truck Equipment Inc. to purchase replacement dump body on the 2016 Chevy 1-ton in the amount of $12,015. So,
Second.
We got before we go to the snacks. For one thing, second of all, I want to see the whole final bill.
this is just to approve.
This is not the-
14,000.
Okay.
They're gonna get another bill, they'll get the other
Talking about that, you can them all.
$11,000.
You've done like 2 minutes.
Mr. Jim,
Closed session?
I don't break.
2 items.
we had this
Okay,
check,
we'll wait for 2 items.
We have 2 items for closed.
We'll do it, we do.
we were gonna give you the check so you could be in the office with you
Oh, okay,
tonight,
sure.
but
She's in the hospital.
she's in the hospital.
No, I understand.
So is it okay if we just send it out in the mail? We'll have Katie contact her and get it out in the mail tomorrow. Because you're gonna hold it until you guys get back and finish putting in the draft. But just so you know, she had it, she was gonna give it tonight, but
And I have one other question too. We have the draft, so how do you want to proceed with us issuing the final report? We're going to speak to your law firm.
I think, Jeff, you.
And, we need- I think what we do is we need one contact. And I'm fine with Stuart being it.
Stuart,
As far as the feedback, what, any questions you have or any concerns, so we can address them.
Yeah, because I like to speak with Karina. I mean, a lot of this is gonna come from her. You speak with-
Well, we'll wait until we hear from you, no, we just,
Is that all right with you guys? It's not my decision, it's.
yeah, I just think we need one point of contact to come back, and then if you want, we can give you another draft.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's more than just legalese cleaning up than it is any bells and whistles and numbers. It's just more legal. So.
And do you want us to give you a second draft? Sure, okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night. I don't, you affiliated with NIU?
What's that?
Are you affiliated with NIU?
No, but my neighbor is a professor. Did 35 years there, so she knows all the ins and outs.
You refer to it quite a bit.
Well, it's because I hear about it every night, all the things are doing bad, and all the things are doing good. She's a professor of forensic biology. She was the animal.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
You can know her name too.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we're moving on to item number 5, we get a motion to discuss and approve quote from Monroe Truck Equipment. And the total of about $12,014. We didn't get a motion.
We have that already, which for discussion.
Can I just get a second?
Bruce, second.
Second?
Who's not gonna do
Oh, it's Dan, I'm sorry.
it? One,
Yeah,
after that?
first one.
Take it away, Dave.
So there are pictures. There are pictures that are attached. We have been starting winter prep recently on some of our trucks, and the bed of our 1-ton we've had issues with now for a couple of years with rust and damages due to the conditions that they're in. This is kind of an example of why we have moved on to stainless boxes with all our new trucks. We are at the point where many of these rust spots that have been painted over down the sides as well as the back, you can take a screwdriver and you're going right through. Also, right now, as you can see in these pictures, the tailgate's not on. We do not have function to put the tailgate back on because of rust, which will make that not being able to be used for salting purposes. I contacted Monroe. They are who built this truck for us in the first place. A stainless steel bed replacement only is the $12,041, whatever it may be. That is for the box itself. It is something that I talked to my staff. We can do removal and install of the current with the equipment we have. We did replace the hoist on this last year, so that is not necessary. That mechanism is good, but we are in need to be able to continue to use this to change out a box on it.
How many miles this thing?
Yeah.
The truck itself is a great truck. It's a 2016. It's probably somewhere around 20 to 30,000 miles. The truck itself is not the problem. It's strictly the bed at this point.
So it's worth investing into.
Yeah, yes, 100%. Yep, it's actually, I mean, obviously we have now upgraded our fleet, but at one point in time, this was the newest truck we had.
So it's that bed's dangerous is what you're pretty much telling us.
It's rusting to the point where I think this winter we'll no longer be able to put salt on it, even if we could have a tailgate, because like I said, you can go through with a screwdriver at this point and poke and prod and you're going through the bed. Jeff's seen it in person.
Do you,
Okay, speak to you said,
Yes.
do you think it's better to put a dump bed on it, or would you like do it like flatbed?
Dump bed.
Dump bed
Yep.
all the way
We
over?
use this for dirt removal, stone, gravel, chipping trees, mulch. We have a box that'll drop on for chipping, and then salting purposes. So the auger spinner setup that we have for this particular box will fit directly on the new stainless box. It's all interchangeable. That's why we're going directly through Monroe on this. It is their box. The only difference between this one, outside of age, will be that it will be stainless steel to hold up going forward in the future with salting.
Any more questions? I don't. All right, roll call to approve.
Jeff Bowie,
Yes.
Bruce Moore,
Yes.
Betsy Strong,
Yeah,
Austin Davy,
Yes.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Owen Costanza.
Yes.
The Monroe truck equipment, bid for the Chevy one-ton truck in the amount of $12,014 is approved. Moving on to item 6, we have a motion to discuss and approve to get notification system for residents.
Second.
Motion by Owen and second by Dan. This must be a notification system because of all the water issues we were just dealing with.
Correct.
presumably.
I asked for this to be put on there, to go into too, but, so I wanted to see, but take some time to look into this. I've heard of a couple of options. I'm gonna reach out to Carrie and ask her to ask her municipal clerk friends. There's some already that are like government ones. Text My Gov, Nixle, Everbridge, American Marketing Publishing, Gov 311. So we need to come up with something that we can alert, send out alert via text so that people know. I tried to get the word out the day of I was here. And it just, I don't want to answer questions. I did reach out to Ion and ask him to do a brief explanation on top of what you did so that the people, because some of them are still complaining about it, saying that we weren't being transparent, we would tell them everything that it was. And I don't want anyone to ever think that we're not being transparent with them. So I want to look into this and check this out, get a system set up. So when David makes an alert, a water boil, whatever, boom, it's sent out to whoever that wants to sign up for it and be alerted. To obviously put it in the water bill ain't gonna be effective, but we need to come up with some kind of a system. He contacted the news right away. He did this as a precautionary measure, the water boil.
Can I ask, what was the issue?
Sediment buildup, directly from the tower. So basically the aquifer that the tower pulled from burped, pulled in a bunch of sediment and distributed it throughout the system. So there was no heavy metal issues or anything like that. I know that's gotten thrown out. It was just sediment build up through the system that pushed through.
So is there anything we need to do to prevent that from?
It's a natural.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're pulling from 350 feet down in the ground. It is a natural occurrence. It does happen.
Right.
Pumps up and out.
Did we ever get that final report that test was sent out?
No, typically the last test results are available to me the week after the testing. I'm expecting to have those sometime sent to my email Friday or Saturday. I'll distribute those once we do get them. For instance, I got on Saturday, I had test results from August 26th. So it's about a week behind in getting the email with the detailed test results. But as soon as I do have those, I will send them out.
All right, and the test even drove the samples down to Peru?
Yeah, we sent multiple series of samples down.
They drove down person just to make sure our water was.
In the immediate aftermath of everything, we went through and did every test available to us at our lab here. And again, nothing at that time indicated we were having any chlorine issues or heavy metal issues or anything like that. Out of an abundance of caution though, and not knowing in the immediate what was going on, we wanted to be extra cautious and make sure, hey, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna proceed. And every testing round that came back wasn't indicating anything of
I
ever.
proposed about the manganese, that's what it was, well, sucked up. And people are like, well, it just makes it more concentrated. We're kind of freaking out. And it says, if you read it, you bring the water to a rolling boil for 1 minute, it's done. It's sterilized. It's a precautionary measure that they chose to do this. So I was trying to get the message out on everything I could on all the pages. And then I was starting to get lambasted.
The loss.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I was thinking about the text messages, these days, we're getting a ton of spam text messages.
What?
Apps have been coming way down in price. I'm sure there's an app out there, and then people can decide if they want to get a notification, you got an app on there. And then that app can also push to the social media stuff. So,
I've
yeah.
actually been discussing with reached out to Bonesolve. They are on Code Red. I've talked with them twice now. They do email, call out.
Those are 5 different options.
I know, I
Right.
just said, I've been talking to somebody already about it. So once all,
Yeah, maybe she had some prices.
they're supposed to call me back tomorrow. But they can do call outs for like some of our senior citizens, they say they don't have social media and cell phones. So they can do call outs, they can do app, they can do email, they can hit everything across the
Yeah,
board.
probably all these probably can too.
So,
I think most of these programs,
Season, so if you would like to take the,
Yeah, no problem with that. Like I said, the one's supposed to call me, I think it's One Solve, but it's Code Red was the name of the app. And they said, I think it's the name of
right,
it.
something.
Maybe that's Red Code. But anyways, they said for somebody our size, a call out wouldn't be an issue at all.
Very,
But I'm supposed to talk to them tomorrow. I think we're supposed to throw some prices at me.
Then just add somebody down to you.
you guys can.
All right, good, we're doing that.
To us in there. All right.
If we go in executive session, we should find out. Going to see one personnel.
We got a motion by Owen for item number 7, going to executive session. And second by Austin. Well, I guess technically roll call vote to go into executive session.
On the phone.
Owen Costello.
Yes.
Dan G.
Yes.
Austin Davy.
Yes.
Bruce Moore.
Yes.
Betsy Straw. Dan, Jeff Cohen.
Yes.
All right, it is 6, no, it's not, it's 8:52. We are now in executive session.
Thank you for coming.
Do you want me to contact the